I've been watching some testimonies or something of debates as of late about people and even pastors talking about what type of evidence can exist and can't exist for the existence of God. And there seems to be this that anything resembling scientific evidence is something that can't exist, and that we shouldn't expect any kind of proof or evidence of a metaphysical being. If the thing is metaphysical, it can't be proven in any sense. But then there's this fallback to the experiential, this fallback to them experiencing or feeling God. And I want to say, first of all, this is a fairly modern argument that there's no evidence in a material sense of a God. I say it's a fairly modern argument because it's a fairly modern position. When you read some like the poetry, the sonnet to science, it's something that kind of shows the curvature of time and how science has come in and put away a lot of these metaphysical ideologies. Debunking them, disproving them one at a time, or just bringing the general consensus of needing evidence for these types of things. And I mentioned that ode to science because there's a lot there as far as understanding the change of the times. But we have Mount Olympus. People thought there were gods up on Mount Olympus. It was inevitable eventually that people were going to be able to climb Mount Olympus easily and get up there and see that there's no gods there. So what has happened is gods have slowly but surely throughout time transitioned from these giant physical claims like coming down on Mount Zion, and landing on the mountain in a physical form, or all of these physical claims, whether it's seeing God or seeing God's hind parts or being put on the cliff edge, or whether it's some physical form like the tornado of fire that come down and slurped up the offering. All of these types of things are very physical formed claims, and they have now in recent time retreated all the way to the position of, well, you can't prove God in any physical sense because God's a metaphysical thing. So they have given up all of this ground just so that they can say, well, he's a spirit, and that's fine. We get a bit of this definitionally throughout the Bible. I think John says that God is a spirit. And we get, even in the Old Testaments, we get him not so much reduced to simply a spirit, but we get verses that say things like he is the invisible. But it's a slowly, steady retreatment into, he's just a conceptual type of, he's a metaphysical being with all this power, but he really doesn't have a form, so there's no way to prove him. And that's kind of what we got into, but that's not where we always were with the subject. And that's extremely clear that is not where we always were with the subject. But it's a fallback position that now, oh no, we can't prove anything that's a metaphysical, and we shouldn't even expect, to be able to prove that. That's a long way from one prophet challenging another prophet to show their God and saying that the Yahweh God, sent down a pillar of fire that slurped up all the water in the troughs and everything when it burnt the offering. That's a very far way from that kind of positioning to, we can't even have any evidence of God. You shouldn't expect any physical evidence of God. But that's fine. That's where you're at. Now you've fallen back completely to the experiential data. And we're supposed to accept this from the experiential side and say, well, people feel God. Isn't that evidence when they feel God? You know what the problem is with this. And if you don't, then you're just uneducated historically, or you don't know enough about other religions. And first of all, there are different ways that different specific denominations might feel God. There's these different emotional kind of apexes that people say, this is God, or this is God. I'll give you a primary example. There are different types of almost euphoric states that might be a sense of peace, a sense of serenity or calmness. And some religions like Baptists or Catholics might feel God in this serene moment, and this sense of confidence, this sense of peace. Whereas there are others like Pentecostals or more apostolic style religions that might have higher heart rates, it's more of a cardiovascular, more of you feel it in your hairs. I come from Pentecostal myself, and they convince themselves that they're talking in tongues, that they speak in tongues, and they can think about Jesus and just think about, concentrate, and the more they think about it, they hype themselves up to the point that they can feel the hair standing up on their head, and shandala do do do, and start saying these words. And these are feelings that I have control of. I can make myself feel these things or speak with other tongues. I just know that it's me that's doing it. It's not the Holy Ghost that's making them speak with other tongues. And I have been disillusioned from this. But that sensation that thousands of people they attribute to that's God. That's the Spirit of God moving in them. So that happens in the Pentecostal side, or in many of the apostolic sides, that they feel this as an escalation, that they feel a tingling. Whereas you might have more Protestant religions that feel it more so, like I said, in these serene moments, in these moments in between serenity and pain, and where you feel like complete comfort and rest, but you are sobbing in tears. And these type of emotional things, this is where they may feel what they call God. But other people have felt these things, and all of these different apexes of emotional experience, they felt them throughout history, and they have attributed those things to their divinities. And we get this all throughout all of these different ones. We get Dionysus, we get Apollo with the Oracle of Delphi. We get all of these that Osiris of the Egyptians. We get all of these that say that they felt their God's spirit literally come into their body, and that they felt their God. And to them, it's undeniable. It's undeniable that it is their God. So when we talk about these experiences with people and how they're feeling God, and that they could never, question whether that was God. Well, none of these other people could too. And then what you have is this kind of constant no true Scotsman argument that you get into with these people, that no, but what I felt was the real God. And they dismiss these people in a bunch of different ways. And more often than not, they dismiss these other people and these other religions under the pretext that, well, that was the devil, that was deceiving them. The devil got into all of these other religions and made them feel all these emotions. Because it's difficult to say that maybe that was just the apex of their specific, very sincere and very serious emotion that they felt, and that they related that emotion to divinity because there was something sovereign, something almost miraculous inside of those moments, and that it was very real to them. And they don't want to attribute that to them people feeling that, and that they actually were feeling their gods that they were worshiping, or in the middle of ceremony worshiping those gods. And then you have others that are not as inhabiting them, like the three that I just mentioned, because these are followers of Dionysus and followers of Apollo. They felt that God came into their body and literally moved them. There's testimony of. So this might be more related to the Montanist side of the Christian movement, or the Pentecostal side of the modern Christian movement, but. Then you have those that just find serenity or find peace, which might be more akin to the sensations that people felt in the Celtic religions with like the god Lugh, or the Norse religions with Wotan, that they felt that peace and that serenity come over them as the All-Father moved on them. So there's these different range of apexed emotions that these different religions feel, and that they all attribute it to their understanding of what their present divinity is. But if we understand it in this way, that it's happening in all of these different religions, we have to slowly accept the possibility that maybe this is something that is simply happening inside of the mind. Maybe it's not a devil at all. Maybe it's just us, and this is our way of making peace and some tranquility with the emotions that we're feeling at their height. And are they very serene? Are they very almost, I hate to even use the word, but are they spiritual? Yeah, they are. And I don't want to take away from that. But to give this unique place to your experience and to say, well, my experience is proof that there is God, you have to belittle these other religions' experience. You have to dismiss them away somehow to set your experience on some pedestal that gives your experience with divinity some coveted place. And it's just bullcrap. It's bullcrap. These people genuinely felt these things, and as much as you would say, yeah, that you would die for this, you believe it so much, you haven't been put to that test. I don't doubt that you would, but many of these religions have been put to that test, and they put their money where their mouth was. They died for these things. They died for these beliefs because of an experience that they thought that experience was so real and so genuine that they could never deny it. So for you to belittle it and think, oh, well, but their experience of, Apollo, it's not the same as my experience, that mine is, it's real. Mine's real. Theirs isn't real. What a crock. What an absolute crock. This is the fallback that you have to say that this is your evidence. This is the same evidence that every religion has posed forever. They feel these things at an emotional level. But we cannot, in any reasonable sense, say that this is anything more than them getting in touch with their emotions. This is something that is solely happening inside of them. And there's no way to delineate that experience from your experience. And there's no outcome way, there's no way, testability way, there's no way to say, well, yeah, but this group would die for their belief, but this one wouldn't. They both would. All of these religions would die for this. They believe it, they felt it, and for them it was very real. That doesn't mean that it wasn't entirely inside of them, that it wasn't entirely inside of their head. So using this experience as a fallback to say that this is evidence, I don't know what that word is that you think is evidence, but this isn't it. Yeah, as the old meme says, I don't think that word means what you think it means. That's not evidence. Sorry.